DeKalb County taxpayers are funding an $18.9 million contract with Flock Safety for the government's Digital Shield surveillance infrastructure, ensuring that this privatized system is deployed, maintained, and operated entirely for government use over the next decade. This creates a financial burden borne by the local public and puts a for-profit company at the center of public policing, a troubling privatization of core civil functions that often escapes meaningful democratic or legal oversight. The total contract cost for Flock Safety System is nearly $19 million over 10 years, with annual cost escalating from $561,400 in the first year to almost $2.9 million by the 10th year. Taxpayers foot the bill for a surveillance network that includes license plate readers, drones, pan-tilt cameras, and other advanced technology, enriching private vendors while locking the community into a long-term financial commitment. These recurring expenses include installation, maintenance, software services, and upgrades, profits that flow directly to Flock Safety, not public coffers. Because Flock Safety's technology is installed, operated, and directed by government agencies, fully funded with public money, citizens are legally entitled to scrutiny under the state actor theory. This means that companies' actions, including data handling, deployment, and surveillance outcomes, are extensions of the state, making them subject to public record requests and the Freedom of Information Act. Privately contracted surveillance cannot be shielded from transparency obligations simply because government outsources the work. The courts have consistently ruled that when a private entity performs a government function with public resources, its records and practices are open to democratic scrutiny, just as police or city agencies would be. Residents can file FOIA and public records requests for all contracts, footage, data analysis, audits, and deployment logs produced or held by Flock Safety for county use, compelling disclosure of how the system is built, what data it collects, and how it is shared. This is not just a right, but an urgent necessity, as privatized surveillance risks eroding civil liberties without the same scrutiny as purely public agency actions. Taxpayers should not accept any surveillance regime that is shielded from investigation just because it is operated by a private vendor. It is the public's money, and the public's privacy is at stake. Emphasizing the demand for meaningful access and oversight, residents must hold both the government and its corporate surveillance partners to the highest standards of transparency, accountability, and respect for privacy, before the line between public safety and mass monitoring blurs beyond recognition. DeKalb County's $18.9 million contract with Flock Safety means that taxpayers are directly funding a private company to install and operate government surveillance infrastructure for over a decade. This represents a major transfer of public money into a long-term commitment for privatized police technology, creating recurring costs with little evidence that true crime prevention happens. Rather than using public agencies or open-source public safety options, DeKalb County officials have entrusted public safety tasks to Flock Safety, a private vendor, locking residents into payments year after year that ultimately profit the company while reducing public control. The surveillance system's expenses include hardware, software, and ongoing upgrades, with the costs accelerating as the contract continues, shifting more public resources away from other pressing public priorities. When a private company such as Flock Safety is paid by the government to operate core functions like policing and surveillance, constitutional law recognizes the company as a state actor. That means all records, data, and operational details should be subject to public scrutiny and Freedom of Information Act requests, just like any other public agency. Residents must insist on their right to access records about technology deployment, usage, data, camera locations, and policy documents held by both Flock Safety and DeKalb County Police. Being funded by taxpayer dollars and performing state functions means flock safety can hide behind private enterprise rules. It must answer to the public. Citizens should actively file public records and FOIA requests to uncover contracts and financial documents showing the costs and obligations, footage, audit reports, and deployment maps revealing how surveillance impacts neighborhoods and individuals, data sharing policies, clarifying how information is passed between agencies or outside entities. Taxpayers are entitled to demand ongoing and rigorous scrutiny, not just because their money is paying for it, but because only transparency enforces true accountability. Without it, privatized surveillance risks operating as an unregulated shadow branch of the government, dangerously insulated from public oversight.